Hey guys, Bridget here. In this video, we're going to talk about classes and combo classes in Webflow. So I'm going to give you a full overview, and just before we get started, I want to remind you that I recently launched new freebies on my website, geodesigns.com. So feel free to check them out. But now without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Now we're going to talk about a very important element in Webflow, and that is classes. Now, classes are a fundamental concept used to style elements consistently across a website. And here's a brief breakdown of what classes are and how they function in Webflow. A class in Webflow is a set of styles that can be applied to multiple elements. When you create a class and define its styles, you can reuse that class on different elements to maintain a consistent design without needing to manually style each and every element. So for example, in this case, if we select this image, we have the hero image class. And as you can see, these blue tags are the classes. And the way they work is you create a class, and to create a class, you select an element and enter a name for the class in the selector field of the style panel. So for example, if we delete a class, which we can easily do using the back button, you can see that now we can start typing text. So I'm going to add a class, which I'm going to call it image fries. And as you can see, I can either click on create this class, or I can simply press enter and the class is going to be created. Now, the moment that I change anything within this class, whenever I apply this class to another image, is going to essentially behave in the same way. So for example, if I make the opacity at 20% for this class, and I simply copy this class name and I select this other image and I add the same class, which, as you can see, the moment they start typing image fries, there's going to be an existing class suggestion. I'm going to have the same effect, which is 20% opacity. Now, this is not a great name for a class because it's very specific and individual. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to give you this example, since you want to utilize classes with names that are going to be easily applied to that specific set of components without having to be too specific. So that is one of the things that you definitely want to keep in mind. Now let's undo this a few times. And before we move forward, I want to let you know that there's two types of classes. The first one is the global classes. Now these are classes that can be applied to any element on your website. And it's what we just did. They're ideal for styles that you want to reuse across different pages and sections. And then there's combo classes. Now these are variations of an existing class. For example, if you have a button class and you want a slightly different style for a specific button, you can create a combo class. This allows you to retain the base styles of the original class while adding specific modifications. Let's say, for example, that I want a red variation of this button. I'm going to create a class named red, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color, and I'm going to unlink it for this example, and I'm going to create this variation right here. Now at this point we can go to this second button, and we can actually type in red, and the moment that I add this class, you can see how the red background is now applied. This is considered a combo class, and we're going to discuss these concepts in more detail in future videos as well. One element which is important though is to never have more than 2 or 3 combo classes. So this example is actually a borderline scenario, and ideally you wouldn't want to have more than one or two in order to keep the CSS clean. Now the CSS is really useful to learn at least the basics of that language, because that what we're doing is essentially bringing to no code CSS concepts, and the architecture behind it is literally CSS, so that's going to be useful as well. Now, practical examples: you can use typography classes. You can create classes for different type of text, such as headings, body text, and captions. And you can apply these classes to text elements to ensure consistent font styles and sizes. As you've seen, you can also create button classes, which design a base button class with styles for padding, border, background color, and text color. And you can most certainly use classes for layout. So classes are going to be extremely important for using and defining layouts for sections, containers, and grids. And this is going to ensure uniform spacing and alignment throughout your website. Now, again, we're going to go into much more detail about classes, but I want you to experiment with them. So right after this video, start creating your first class. Experiment with creating a combo class as well, and start getting your feet wet with this concept that is going to be extremely useful in order to create systems that are both reusable but efficient overall for your website builds. In the previous video we talked about classes, and now I want to talk about combo classes a bit more in depth. So combo classes in Webflow, again, allow you to create variations of an existing class. Now this feature helps you maintain consistency while allowing specific tweaks to certain elements. Now the specifics are the following: combo classes are variations of a base class. So what they do is they inherit the properties of the base class and allow you to add and override specific styles. So for example, if you have this button, you can create a combo class which is button.primary or button.secondary to add unique styles to different types of buttons. Now we're going to explore these concepts from a high level. Further along in the course though, what we're going to do is we're going to utilize a specific style guide and system in order to be sure that whenever we're creating combo classes, we are adhering to a structure which is going to be flexible and especially efficient, because the moment that you start working on a larger website, keeping track of all of the combo classes is going to become quite difficult, and the tricky part is not only going to be remembering how many and where you apply those combo classes, but having a common language if you're working with other designers or developers which are using Webflow. So this is going to be incredibly important. So all of the examples that we're going to make are going to be just to communicate the concept, where we're not going to utilize the same structure in the Webflow builds that we're going to create, which are going to be much stronger in those regards. Now that being said, in order to create the combo class, again, you can simply add a second combo class, which can be button.primary, and the reason why we're creating this different combo class is we want the classes to always be descriptive of what that class is about. Now, if we simply added primary, that is a combo class that in and of itself is not going to be very clear if someone encounters this class, because primary could be applied to text or an image or even a component such as the header. So utilizing a more descriptive element with some sort of convention, which could be camel case, or in this case we're utilizing a button in order to, or a dot in order to differentiate between button and primary. That is going to be quite useful. So again, if we go ahead and we change, for example, the background color of this item, the moment that we add this class to this the moment that we add this combo class to this other element, which is still a button, this same background is going to apply. Now, there's some best practices that you have to keep in mind whenever you're dealing with combo classes. The first one that we already mentioned is using a clear naming convention. So we already established that. Another thing which you have to keep in mind is to keep base styles generic. So whenever you design your base class with the most common styles that many elements will share, you should use combo classes for specific modifications, and also inherit and override wisely. So use combo classes to only override necessary properties. This maintains the benefits of the base class and avoids redundant styling. So combo classes should be used occasionally. They shouldn't be used all of the time. They are almost an exception to the norm, if you want to mentally frame it like that. And you should also document class usage. So there should be ideally a section within your website where you can document and keep track of your classes and their purposes, especially in larger projects, to avoid confusion. And this is exactly what we're going to learn much down the line in the course, which is going to be really useful. And again, limit the number of combo classes, because using combo classes can be hard to manage and defeat the purpose of simplifying your styling process if you're not careful. Also, some of the things that you want to avoid when it comes to combo classes: do not overuse them, and especially avoid complex class names. We mentioned a moment ago that we wanted to give context and make these classes self-explanatory, but avoid having very long classes. That is going to make the entire process even more difficult and harder to manage. So you want to be concise and straight to the point. You also want to avoid redundant styles. So don't apply styles in a combo class that are already defined in the base class unless you intend to override them. And especially avoid inconsistent naming. So avoiding inconsistent naming convention, as they make it harder to track and apply classes correctly. And also avoid direct element styling. So don't style elements directly if you intend to use them multiple times. Always use classes to ensure reusability and consistency instead of combo classes. Now, I know that this lesson might seem a bit overwhelming since it's covering some more advanced principles, but I just wanted to give you a high-level understanding. So even if you captured just a tiny bit of what we discussed, you're going to notice how all of this is going to make much more sense as we dive deep and we create our first websites using also the style guide structure and learning from it.